Hey, welcome back to another commentary. This commentary will focus on patience and Untammob, the new Maces build that I made. Um, this is gonna talk about fighting on 1v1 scale with patience and outnumbered with the build as well, alongside outnumbered with Untammob, the other build that's using Mace. Now, I am gonna try to, as usual, talk about the important things about the builds and how to use them and what situations you can get into and what will happen when you don't try to stick to some principles. And I will reveal the builds as I promised on streams and other times. This time I will share both builds and people would be able to play them and experience them and also wonder why the hell did I do what I did with the builds. And it's, it makes sense. Each to his own in his gameplay and what he wants to try. So let's get started, and I hope you're gonna learn something from this. Alright, so we're gonna start with patience. We're gonna talk a little bit about 1v1 scenarios. And it's very important to clarify that you are relying on opening strike, trait line in marksmanship. Every time you gain fury, you gain opening strike, and opening strike does a 25 increased damage. There is a minor trait in marksmanship that makes opening strike to 100% crit chance. It'll always crit, but if you have weakness, you might not crit. It can counter that. So you can just toss every critical chance from your build into other stats because you don't really need it. And it's very important that you would focus with your single hit abilities with opening strike and try not to miss them because that's your damage dealer and that's your crit chance, obviously. If you pair with Moment of Clarity, you would be able to gain, when you interrupt an opponent, 25 increased damage on the next attack. So that's really nice. That's going to boost up your damage. And if you go for Clarion Bond, which every time you swap pet, you're going to get Fury and Might. That's going to trigger Opening Strike again. You're going to trigger it manually, just for big damage on the next attack that you want. If you see an opening and you don't have Opening Strike ready, you can just swap it before the attack just to gain that and hit the target. It's very important to clarify that the build is kiting a lot. It requires to kite a lot because you cannot really stand in damage. So if you see an opportunity to burst the target, just go for it. You need to watch out for windows and you need to be patient with your attacks because after all, spear 3, 4, 5 stealthed attack, the net, ambush, dagger 3, they're all single hit abilities and they're the big damage. So you would want to use them with open strike and try not to miss them as well. And if you do miss them, it's okay. Just try to recover from the situation and watch out for the next window that you can use them to land big damage or a big turn on the fight against your opponent. Taking consideration that the build is not suited to just run around and press buttons and whatever happens, because you're going to do big damage. That's not how it works. You're relying on opening strike, so try not to miss your skills, plan on your abilities, and try to... sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice abilities to remove Aegis or anything like that, or just to try to keep the opponent interested in the fight. Let's go that way, because you're also going to stealth a lot to plan your attacks. So be patient. Plan your attacks, hit big damage. Now, talking about outnumbered scenarios with the build. Sticking to the principles of be patient, plan your next attack, try not to waste opening strike, all of those still take effect in Outnumbered, especially in Outnumbered, because you are outnumbered after all, and you want to make every attack meaningful. You want every attack to be impactful and every attack to actually be useful in the fight. So when you encounter Outnumbered, try to pick the most easy target to try and burst as fast as possible. Because once you start bursting it down, and it will go down, that is your key opening for winning the fight, because the enemies might try to res it, which just gives you windows to burst the area, AoE the area, and basically get more downies in the process, reducing less pressure from you because they are focusing on getting that downy up. Once you get the downy down and you do notice they're not focusing on resing the target, you would want to continue pressuring others and try to get them down just to generate more downies, because if they're not taking care of one downy, they most likely won't take care of the next downy and the next downy and so on. But you do need to pay attention to the other downies, not if they will get res or anything. For example, if you find a ranger, for example, you would want to kill it as fast as possible because the pet will res it eventually. So you would want to stomp it and get it out of the equation as fast as possible. And if there is none, you can just focus on cleaving the area in case they're trying to res, or just to focus on others to reduce pressure from you, and at the same time to generate more downies. If you see a person that is down and people are trying to res it, but you don't have any way to pressure them right now, for example, you are on your dagger, you don't have your Warhorn 5, you cannot swap right now weapon because it's on cooldown, you don't have your spirit ready, or anything of sort, try to stomp it as fast as possible. Because your only window to kill it is as soon as it goes down, start the stomping, because they're gonna start instantly resing. And if it's more than one person resing, they might be able to get the res off, unless you put poison on. If you put poison on the target, it will take them more time to res it, so it gives you an opportunity to continue the stomp and eventually get it off before they will manage to res it up. And after you finish it off, try to recover from the fight, move a bit, and then start continuing your burst on the others. Try to look for the next target that you want to kill, but don't try to stomp it immediately, because sometimes they will understand, okay, it's going for the stomp, we might AoE the area or some shit. So you're gonna have to plan your next move. For example, if you see that you're being pressured and you cannot really stomp it or pressure the area, you're gonna have to leave. And it's better off, getting some downies, maybe some kills, and then leaving the fight and maybe losing the battle, let's call it that way, or losing the war, but you won the battle because you did get a few downies, a few of them got stomped, and you just escaped with your life, which is much better than dying eventually to that outnumbered. And every time you see an outnumbered, you should take in consideration what you are fighting, because sometimes when you are fighting some formidable opponents, it would be harder for you to win the fight. It would be harder for kiting. It would be harder to gain any traction on the fight, gain the upper hand. Sometimes, even if you play it quite perfectly, let's say it that way, or maybe good enough, it's not going to be enough to win the fight. So you need to plan your next move, and if you see you have no chance in that current situation to win the fight, try to stall for time. You don't have to get out of combat, leave it, and just be like, I'm just gonna reset fight and let's see them try again. Try to be fair with the fight and not necessarily reset it, and try to, give your opponent a body language of, I'm over here, I'm still not out of the fight, come and get me, and try to look for an opening on them. You know they're gonna leap with their mounts or anything, so try to plan for that and burst them immediately to punish them for that engage. That can give you an upper hand on the fight and even win the fight in some scenarios. As long as you don't do enough mistakes, you have a chance to win that fight regardless of what you're fighting against. And as I said before, stick to the principles. Try not to overextend, plan your next attacks. Sometimes you're going to fight more formidable opponents that you were fighting before, or overall something that is very hard for the build to fight against. But, you can't win them all, you can't have them all. Sometimes you get this, sometimes you get that. But try to outsmart your opponents and leave to fight another day. Alright, so we're going to talk about the Antimob, the Maces build. Now, a few clarifications. Maces don't have any mobility. The closest that you have for mobility is your number 3, and it's not a big leap, it's very small. but it does give protection. You have Condy Clear, you have Barrier, you have Stuns, you have Dazes, you have healing for your pet, you have some healing with number 2, you have an AoE Immob with your ambush skill, it's a trail, it's also ranged. So you're having some tools in your toolkit, but you need to be aware that maces are very slow, obviously no mobility, and there are fights where when you are on maces, you're gonna understand, okay, I'm in a tough situation, most likely I cannot get out right now. Like there's no way I can get out of the fight, I'm being outnumbered, I'm fighting a few people. I'm on maces, there is no way I can outrun them, like, right? Because it's like running normally. It's you don't have any mobility. A Neko would be able to catch you, an Ellie would be able to catch you, a Mesmer would be able to catch you, an Engie would be able to catch you, a Revenant would be able to catch you, a Warrior would be able to catch you. Everybody would be able to catch you. On maces, you're basically like a person that just runs in a straight line. And it will cause you to lose some fights, obviously. If you overextend and you decide to die on that hill, it is what it is. You should aim for fun more than efficiency, and that's why this build was created. It was focusing more on the fun side of the Maces build, more on and less on the survivability and min-maxing stuff to be way more efficient. For example, Patience is focusing more on stealth. It has a lot of stealth, and it's focusing on opening strike. This one does not. This one focuses on Predator's Onslaught and Farsighted for more damage, and it's more consistent damage. If you do the calculation, it's very close to Remorseless. So it's like having Remorseless up more often, just without the 100% crit chance, and Cripple and Vulnerability when it's triggered. But overall, it's very nice. Good results, good damage output across the board for like long-term situations and more consistency. Overall, what made me make that build and think about that build is the change that they done to pets. Dead pet is now, when you swap from a dead pet, it's 25 seconds instead of 60 seconds, which is very close to a normal swap pet. A normal swap pet is 20 seconds. If your pet is dead and you swap pet, it's now 25 seconds instead of a minute. So it made me think about how can I make a build revolves around Farsighted and Predator's Onslaught to get away from that opening strike and that massive access for stealth, because I'm not running Jaguar, not running Smokescale. Only have Spear for stealth, and it made me go to the Ether Hunter. Ether Hunter is a very nice pet. It has Cripple, which is good for Predator's Onslaught, and it has the Dimension Breach, which is a knock-up, AoE knock-up. It's synergizing very well with Predator's Onslaught. And on this specific footage, I'm running with Signet of the Wild just to increase ferocity and have more Emob access, and using the Gazelle, which is a more formidable pet, more tanky pet, and it has a few CCs. It has a Daze and a Knock-Up. But it's a bit clunky. The charge can be stuck in place, it won't use it. Sometimes when you swap pet, and you tell it to use an ability, sometimes it thinks it's in the range of the enemy, but it's not in the range of the enemy, and you're like, whoa, what the hell? It is what it is, you know, it happens. So it made me rethink about my pets after a few testing when I recorded those clips, and I swapped to Warclaw, and instead of Signet of the Wild, I swapped to Quickening Zephyr. Warclaw gives you super speed, it has a cripple, and it has a knockdown, which is very nice. CC and movement impaired alongside quickness, super speed to help out with the mobility problems that Mace have. And then Quickening Zephyr, both for super speed, and Break Stun, another Break Stun, pretty fair cooldown. And on top of that, you have quickness. Now, Warclaw is a feline. Felines are the fastest attacking pets in all the pets. And a few patches ago, they did mention that they let felines now auto attacks get benefit from quickness. So that synergizes even better with Warclaw because of it being a feline and giving it quickness to auto attack faster. So trying to take care of the mobility problem with the build, I'm using Wallclaw for super speed, Quickening Zephyr for super speed, and Pack Relic for super speed on using Entangle. Entangle is a very low cooldown elite, synergizes very well with Predator's Onslaught because of the Emob, and it's a continuous Emob. So you're gaining super speed also from that. So it does help you with situations where you need to get out or you need that super speed while using maces. Now, like I said, this footage is not with the most updated changes because it's still viable even using the Gazelle and Signet of the Wild, but I felt it was even better using the Warclaw and Quickening Zephyr. And that's where I'm at with this build. This build has more consistent damage, it has more reliable damage, it has more synergy between everything that you use. Everything in this build synergizes with each other. You have almost every ability in the mace except number 4 and number 2 that will synergize with the Predator's Onslaught. You have your number 5 of your spear, the net, and you have the stealthed number 4 of the spear to synergize with it. And you have your pets that will synergize with it. The shark, F1, F2, synergize with it. You have your Warclaw, F1, F3, synergize with it. So you have almost everything in the build synergizes with it and gives you an opportunity to do massive damage almost constantly and overall put pressure and be a devastating force even though you are having some weaknesses here and there. Alright, so moving on to the second part of the Antimob commentary is comboing with your pet. Now, your pets have a lot of CC and a lot of ways to trigger Predator's Onslaught, which will benefit your damage. So you will need to synergize with those combos, with those CCs that the pet is using for your benefit. For example, if an enemy has a stack of stab, and you're like, that's a problem, I can't use my mace stun, I can't use my pet stun, I can't CC him. So you're gonna sacrifice one CC to chain it with another CC. For example, you're gonna tell your pet, hey, I want you to charge on the enemy, or I want you to knock the enemy. And immediately after that, you're gonna follow up with your own CC, because when the pet hits, it will remove the stack of stab. And now you are hitting with your CC, and you're gonna be able to hit because the enemy doesn't have stab anymore. So you are using the pet CC to remove stack of stab to ensure your CC on the enemy. And if the enemy has a lot of stacks of stab, you're not gonna send your pet on him. You're not gonna tell your pet to CC it because it's not gonna do anything. The only benefit is that you're gonna tell it to do it just so it can be closer to the enemy if the enemy is far away or something and you want it to be closer to the enemy. But overall, you would want to use the CCs to benefit your own CC, or if you see an opportunity to land, like, I don't know, throwing your spear at the target or something, or maybe jumping on a target with big damage, you're gonna CC it, and at the same time, you're gonna use your ability because you want it to connect as fast as possible. The CCs are not very long, like maximum you can reach 2 seconds, depending on which pet you use and what CC skill it has. The CC can be like 2 seconds, and you have a small window to do that because, for example, you need to reach the target before it happens. You are blinded, maybe you're slow, wounded, whatever. And comboing with your pet allows you to actually take down targets faster and control the area much better. And as mentioned before, trigger Predator's Onslaught more often for more damage, because not necessarily every time they're going to be rooted, not necessarily every time they're going to be crippled, because crippled can be removed quite fast. People don't like to have their movement slowed, and they will try to remove it as fast as possible. You will encounter some combinations of duos or triple enemies or whatever outnumbered you're getting into, where there is a support and a DPS, not necessarily an aggressive DPS, but still annoying things to fight against, and you're gonna have to try and benefit as much as you can from the CC from your pets to try and control the area and show some presence, especially when it comes to not being pressured yourself. Try to make them back off instead of you backing off. And eventually the CCs will help you control the fight and even deliver the winning moves, I guess you can call it that way, of the fight. Sometimes you can get good results from just a simple one CC the entire fight. Maybe the entire fight you didn't really CC anyone because they always had to stab or anything, but one time that pet was able to CC them, that fight turned around and you suddenly have a turning where you are now in the upper hand, they're pressured. You need to keep that momentum as long as possible because you are still a formidable force. And you still have a lot of stuff in your arsenal. You still have a lot of CC, you still have a lot of cripple, a lot of emobs opportunities. And learn when to switch your targeting, because sometimes, when you're dealing with various comps, for example, this clip shows you that the Mesmer was backing off. Because it was backing off, I decided to go for his damage dealer, and I took down the damage dealer and forced pressure on the down where he cannot res. Forcing the warrior to vengeance, and now I'm like, okay, you are useless now, I'm just gonna ignore you and I'm gonna chase the Mesmer. Unfortunately, it's harder to kill supports, of course, especially Mesmers, so I had to just back off from the fight after the Mesmer was running away. Now, another example for CCing with your pet is just a group of enemies being CC'd. It's just instantly giving you boost damage for Predator's Onslaught and just AoE damage and cleave on the area. It's very nice. The pet might get obliterated in that moment because you're putting it at the heat of the battle, at the center of the chaos. But its job was done. Like, you told it, hey, I want you to CC that area because I need to do cleaving and I need to do massive damage, and it done that job very well, and it performed well. It can rest well now. When you're outnumbered, the CCs from the pet are the most important part of it, because you're already outnumbered, you're already in a disadvantage, and the CCs of the pet help you to control the battlefield by CCing one of them is like reducing a player from the fight. Like, for example, you're in a 2v1, if you CC a player, it's like a 1v1 now when you're attacking an NPC that doesn't do anything. So as long as you still CC, it's like attacking an NPC, and you shouldn't be worried, you're still in a 1v1 situation, let's call it that way, even though you're outnumbered. And it's very important to use the abilities in specific times, just not pressing the button as just to press the button. You want to benefit from your CC because, of course, it has cooldowns, and the pets, they are AI. They're not doing it immediately when you tell it. It has some cast time, and they need to reach the target and things like that. And they might be blinded as well, where they can miss, and you cannot remove their condi because they're not you. And yeah, that's basically it. Pets are your most important part on Untamed, and you need to take care of them. So try to take care of your pets, fight well, combo well, do big damage. So this was the commentary for Patience and Antimob. The builds are in the description. You are welcome to go there, fetch the links, and scratch your heads what the hell is going on in there. By the way, GW2 Skills does not support HTTPS, so when you open the link, check in the address on the top of the browser if it added the S on HTTP. Remove the S and press enter, it will load the page. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. I hope I helped you, and I hope to get better in the future with future commentaries. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.